The first thing you need to know about my wife is that she photoshopped me out of our wedding photos. Not all of them, just the ones she posted online. I discovered this little artistic choice while scrolling through Instagram at 3 in the morning, wondering why I couldn't sleep. There I was, or rather, there I wasn't, cropped out of our Cabo honeymoon shots like some kind of digital ghost. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Evan Lorne, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. 32 years old, decent job as a financial planner at Morrison & Associates, a downtown Toronto condo with a view of the lake, and a wife who could make a grocery run look like a fashion shoot. Kendra Pike, she kept her maiden name for brand purposes, was everything I thought I wanted. Tall, blonde, with the kind of Instagram following that made restaurant hostesses suddenly remember they had a table available. The second thing you need to know about Kendra is that she treated our marriage like a business arrangement that was no longer profitable. I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, scattered around our granite countertops like breadcrumbs leading to a very expensive cliff. The overpriced oat milk that cost more than my lunch. The ring light permanently set up in our living room, casting everything in that artificial glow that made our rescue mutt Baxter look like he belonged in a pet food commercial. The way she'd rearrange our bookshelf before every video call, hiding my Stephen King novels behind her collection of wellness journals that she'd never actually read. "Babe, can you move?" Kendra said that Tuesday morning, not looking up from her phone as she staged another candid breakfast shot. "You're creating shadows." I was eating cereal, at our kitchen table, in our apartment. "Sure thing," I said, taking my bowl to the counter. Wouldn't want to interfere with the aesthetic. She missed the sarcasm entirely, too focused on finding the perfect angle for her acai bowl. The same acai bowl she'd photograph, post, and then leave half-eaten on the counter for me to clean up later. The third thing you need to know about Kendra is that she was cheating on me with a fitness model named Troy Maddox, and she wasn't nearly as smart about hiding it as she thought. It started with the late-night brand collaborations that somehow always required her to stay out until 2 in the morning. Then came the mysterious Venmo payments, $200 here, $150 there, always with cryptic captions like dinner inspo or content planning. When I asked about them, she'd wave me off with some explanation about influencer networking that made about as much sense as cryptocurrency to my grandmother. But the real kicker was the phone calls. Kendra had always been the type to pace while talking, wandering around our apartment like she was giving a TED Talk to an audience of one. Usually, I tuned it out. Conversations about ring lights and engagement rates weren't exactly riveting, but one Thursday evening, while I was in the bedroom folding laundry, her voice carried through the thin walls with crystal clarity. I know, she was saying to someone, probably her friend Shireen, who enabled every bad decision Kendra had ever made. It's just so hard pretending everything's normal. Evan's sweet, but he's so predictable. Troy gets it, you know? The lifestyle, the brand, the vision. I stood there holding one of her designer workout tops, the kind that cost more than my monthly gym membership, and felt something cold settle in my chest. No, he doesn't suspect anything, she continued. He's too busy with his spreadsheets and his dog to notice what's actually happening. Besides, Troy thinks we should wait until after the summer campaign launches. Better optics. Better optics. She was talking about leaving me like it was a marketing strategy. I finished folding her clothes with the same methodical precision I used to balance client portfolios, each movement deliberate and calm. When she came back into the bedroom 20 minutes later, I was reading in bed like nothing had happened. "Who was that?" I asked, not looking up from my book. "Just Shireen, girl stuff." She slipped into the bathroom, and I heard the water running as she began her elaborate nighttime skincare routine. That's when I made my first mistake. I should have confronted her right then, should have laid out what I'd heard, and demanded an explanation. Instead, I decided to be smart about it. I decided to gather evidence. The fourth thing you need to know about Kendra is that she underestimated me in every possible way. My friend Jared works security at Lush, one of those trendy downtown lounges where influencers go to see and be seen. We'd known each other since college, back when his biggest worry was passing organic chemistry, and mine was figuring out how to ask girls to dance without looking like I was having a seizure. Now he spent his nights watching Toronto's social media elite get drunk on overpriced cocktails and their own importance. "Dude," he texted me the following Saturday, "your wife's here with some campaign guy. Looks pretty cozy." Then came the photos, grainy security footage screenshots, but clear enough to see Kendra leaning across a table, laughing at something a dark-haired guy in a tight black t-shirt was saying. Clear enough to see her hand on his arm, clear enough to see the way she looked at him, the same way she used to look at me, back when I was still part of her aesthetic. I studied the photos like they were financial statements, looking for details that might tell a different story, but there was no other interpretation. My wife was on a date, and it wasn't with me. Want me to get closer shots? Jared texted. No, I typed back, but thanks for the heads up. What I didn't tell him was that I'd already started building a file. The thing about being a financial planner is that you develop a certain skill set. You learn to read between the lines of bank statements, to spot patterns in spending that reveal more about a person's life than they'd ever admit out loud. You become a detective of human behavior, tracking the paper trail of poor decisions and hidden priorities. Kendra had no idea she was living with someone who could audit her entire existence. I started small, our shared credit card statements, which she never looked at because numbers are boring, babe. 3 charges at Lush over the past month, always on nights when she claimed to be at networking events. A $180 dinner at Canoe, the kind of place she'd been begging me to take her for months, apparently because she wanted to go with someone else first. Then there were the Uber receipts. Rides to and from an address in Liberty Village that definitely wasn't any influencer event I could find online. The same address over and over, always late at night. Well, okay, how was the brand dinner? I'd asked after one of these mysterious outings. Oh, boring industry stuff. Lots of talk about Q3 strategies. She was already heading for the shower, not making eye contact. Which restaurant did you end up at? That new place on King Street. You wouldn't like it. Very trendy. Except her Uber had taken her nowhere near King Street. I felt like I was solving a puzzle, except every piece revealed that my marriage was a lie and my wife thought I was too stupid to notice. The smart thing would have been to hire a private investigator, or at least confront her with what I'd found. Instead, I kept digging, driven by a mixture of curiosity and something darker that I wasn't ready to name yet. That's when I discovered Troy Maddox. A reverse image search of one of Jared's photos led me to an Instagram account with 200K followers and the kind of abs that probably had their own insurance policy. Troy specialized in fitness lifestyle content, which apparently meant posting shirtless photos with captions about mindset and hustle. His bio listed him as a brand ambassador and wellness consultant, which I assumed was influencer speak for unemployed but photogenic. The really interesting part was his recent posts. Lots of shots at trendy restaurants, always with a mysterious female companion whose face was just out of frame. Captions about finding someone who shares your vision and when the universe aligns. The kind of vague, inspirational bullshit that made me want to audit his taxes just for spite. But it was the location tags that sealed it. Canoe, Lush, a boutique hotel in Yorkville where Kendra claimed she'd done a wellness retreat photo shoot last month. I screenshotted everything, building a digital dossier that would have impressed the FBI. Timestamps, locations, cross-referenced with Kendra's own posts and our credit card statements. By the time I was done, I had a clearer picture of my wife's affair than she probably did. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening in late July. I was working late, reviewing a client's retirement portfolio when my phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Kendra had posted a new photo, one of those carefully staged, candid shots where she's laughing at something off camera, her hair perfectly tousled by what was probably a ring light and a small fan. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe sends you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Grateful for new beginnings and authentic connections. Blessed, chatte our new chapter, extra authenticity." I stared at that post for a full 5 minutes, sitting in my empty office while the cleaning crew vacuumed around me. New beginnings, new chapter. She was announcing our divorce to her 50K followers before she'd even told me she wanted one. That's when I stopped being hurt and started getting angry. The fifth thing you need to know about Kendra is that she never read the fine print on anything, including our joint bank account agreements. I went home that night and cooked dinner like nothing had happened. Pasta with the expensive marinara sauce she liked, garlic bread, a bottle of wine that cost more than most people spent on groceries in a week. I set the table with our wedding china and lit the candles she'd bought for ambiance, but never actually used. "What's the occasion?" she asked when she walked in, already reaching for her phone to document the scene. "Just felt like doing something nice," I said. "We never eat together anymore." She looked almost guilty for a second, then smiled and started arranging the place settings for better lighting. "This is so sweet, babe. Mind if I grab a few shots?" "Go ahead." She spent 10 minutes photographing her plate from various angles while her food got cold. I ate and watched her work, marveling at how she could turn a simple dinner into a production. When she finally put the phone down, I was ready. "So," I said, cutting into my garlic bread with surgical precision, "tell me about Troy." She froze with a forkful of pasta halfway to her mouth. Who? Troy Maddox, fitness model, wellness consultant, owner of the apartment in Liberty Village where you've been spending your evenings. The fork clattered against her plate. Evan, I'm not done. My voice was calm, conversational, the same tone I used to explain investment strategies to nervous retirees. I know about the dinners, the hotel visits, the cozy photos at Lush. I know about the Venmo payments and the mysterious brand collaborations that happened to coincide with his posting schedule. Kendra's face had gone white under her carefully applied makeup. You've been spying on me? I've been paying attention. There's a difference. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. This is insane. You're being paranoid and controlling, and I don't have to listen to this. Sit down. Something in my voice made her pause. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't raised it, hadn't shown any emotion at all. I was treating her infidelity like a line item in a budget report, and it was clearly not the reaction she'd expected. We're going to finish this conversation, I continued. You're going to tell me how long it's been going on, and then we're going to discuss what happens next. She sat down slowly, her influencer confidence cracking like cheap foundation. Evan, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is whether you're going to be honest about it or keep lying to my face. For a moment, I thought she might actually tell the truth. I could see her weighing her options, calculating whether confession or denial would serve her better. In the end, she chose the path that would hurt me most. Fine, she said, lifting her chin with defiant pride. Yes, I've been seeing Troy, and yes, it's serious. We're in love, Evan. Real love. Not this. She gestured around our apartment, at the dinner I'd made, at the life we'd built together. This arrangement. The word hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. Arrangement. Come on. We both know this hasn't been working for months. We want different things, we have different goals. Troy understands my vision in a way you never could. Your vision. Don't repeat everything I say like that. It's condescending. I took a sip of wine, buying myself time to think. So what's the plan? You leave me for your fitness model, and I just quietly disappear from your narrative? It doesn't have to be ugly, she said, and I could hear the relief in her voice now that the secret was out. We can be mature about this. Conscious uncoupling, like Gwyneth did. Conscious uncoupling. Stop doing that. I set down my wine glass and looked at her, really looked at her, for what I realized might be the last time. She was beautiful, objectively speaking, the kind of beautiful that made restaurant servers stumble over their words and caused minor traffic incidents when she jogged past construction sites. But sitting there in our kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal, she looked like a stranger. Okay, I said finally. Okay? Okay. We'll get divorced. You can have your conscious uncoupling and your authentic connections and whatever other buzzword bullshit makes you feel better about cheating on your husband. She blinked, clearly not expecting such easy agreement. Oh, well, good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. I'm always reasonable, Kendra. It's one of my many predictable qualities. She had the grace to look slightly ashamed at that. Evan, I didn't mean... Yes, you did, and that's fine. But since we're being so mature and conscious about this whole thing, I assume you won't mind if I handle the financial aspects of our separation. What do you mean? I smiled at her, the same smile I used with difficult clients. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. The sixth thing you need to know about Kendra is that she'd never actually read any of the financial documents she'd signed during our marriage. Not our joint account agreements, not the insurance policies, not the investment portfolio I'd set up for her business expenses. She'd just signed where I pointed and trusted me to handle the boring details. That trust was about to become very expensive. I spent the next morning at the office, but I wasn't working on client portfolios. Instead, I was conducting a forensic audit of my own marriage, mapping out every shared asset, every joint account, every financial thread that connected my life to Kendra's. By lunchtime, I had a strategy that would have made Sun Tzu proud. The first step was the simplest. I changed all the passwords. Our joint checking account, our savings, our investment portfolio, everything that had my name on it suddenly required my thumbprint to access. Legally, I was well within my rights. Ethically, I was probably crossing a line. Practically, I was just getting started. The second step required a phone call. Morrison and Associates, this is Jennifer. Hey Jen, it's Evan. Is Harold available? Harold Morrison had been my boss for 6 years, ever since I'd started at the firm fresh out of university. He was old-school Toronto money, the kind of guy who still wore suspenders and called everyone sport without irony. More importantly, He was connected to every major brand and agency in the city through his wife's charity work. "Evan, my boy," Harold's voice boomed through the phone. "What can I do for you?" "I need a favor, Harold. It's about my wife's influencer work." I explained the situation in broad strokes. Marriage falling apart, wife having an affair, need to protect my financial interests. I didn't mention my plans for revenge. Harold was old-fashioned enough to disapprove of anything that wasn't handled through proper legal channels. "Terrible business, divorce," he said when I finished. "But what does this have to do with her influence work?" "She's been using our joint accounts to fund her business expenses, equipment, travel, that sort of thing. I need to know which brands she's working with so I can figure out what's legitimately hers and what I paid for." "Smart thinking. Let me make a few calls." By the end of the day, I had a complete list of Kendra's brand partnerships, along with contact information for her sponsors and their specific contract requirements. The most interesting discovery was that her biggest sponsor, a wellness company called Pure Glow, had a strict morality clause in their influencer agreements. Any behavior that could damage the brand's reputation, including infidelity or relationship drama, was grounds for immediate termination. I filed that information away for later use. The third step was the most satisfying. I went shopping. Not for myself, for Kendra. Specifically, I went to every high-end store she'd been posting about lately and made some very expensive purchases using our joint credit card. A $800 handbag from Holt Renfrew, a $200 jacket from some boutique in Yorkville, a $600 pair of shoes that looked exactly like the ones she'd been manifesting on her Instagram stories. Then I returned everything and had the refunds deposited into an account that only I could access. The beauty of this particular strategy was its complete legality. I was simply making purchases and returns using money that was legally half mine. The fact that these transactions would create a paper trail showing massive spending sprees followed by mysterious refunds was just a happy coincidence. By Thursday evening, I was ready for phase 2. Kendra came home around 10 o'clock, later than usual even for her new normal. She was glowing with that particular radiance that comes from spending the evening with someone who thinks you're perfect, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for what I was about to do. Almost. "Hey, babe," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "How was your day?" "Productive," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "How was your brand meeting?" "Good. Really good. We talked about some exciting opportunities for the fall." I nodded like I believed her, then closed my laptop and stood up. "That reminds me, I need to talk to you about our accounts." Her smile faltered slightly. "What about them?" "Well, since we're getting divorced, I thought we should start separating our finances. You know, to avoid any confusion." "Oh, right, that makes sense." I handed her a manila folder I'd prepared earlier. "I've printed out statements for all our joint accounts, plus a breakdown of shared expenses from the last 6 months. I figured you'd want to review everything before we start dividing assets." She opened the folder and stared at the first page, a detailed spreadsheet showing every purchase, every transfer, every financial transaction from our marriage. Her face went pale as she recognized charges she'd forgotten about, expenses she'd assumed I'd never noticed. "Evan, some of these are business expenses." "I know, that's why I've separated them out." I flipped to the second page, which showed a comprehensive breakdown of everything I'd purchased for her influencer career. Camera equipment, lighting, backdrops, props, software subscriptions, website hosting, professional photography sessions. The total came to just over $12,000. "Since these were business investments," I continued in my most professional voice, "I'll need to be reimbursed for my 50% stake in your company." "My company?" "Pike Wellness and Lifestyle Consulting, the business entity we set up last year for tax purposes. Technically, I'm a silent partner, which means I'm entitled to half of all business assets and future earnings." This was a complete fabrication, but Kendra had never bothered to understand the paperwork she'd signed. For all she knew, I owned half of her Instagram account. She stared at the numbers, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. $6,000? That's just for the equipment and setup costs. There's also the question of ongoing expenses, your phone bill, internet, the portion of our rent that covers your home studio space. "Evan, I don't have $6,000. "I know. That's why I've prepared a payment plan." I handed her another document, this one outlining a monthly reimbursement schedule that would eat up most of her influencer income for the next 2 years. She looked at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "This is insane. You can't just—" "I can, actually. It's all completely legal." I had Harold's lawyer friend review the documents. That was another lie, but she didn't need to know that. "Besides," I added, "I thought you'd appreciate the business-like approach. very conscious uncoupling of us. She set the folder down with shaking hands. I need to think about this. Of course. Take all the time you need. Oh, and one more thing. I've temporarily frozen our joint accounts while we sort this out. You know, to protect both our interests during the transition. You what? Standard procedure in divorce cases. Don't worry, you still have your personal account. What I didn't mention was that her personal account contained exactly $247, and her next credit card payment was due in 3 days. I watched her process this information, seeing the exact moment when the reality of her situation hit home. She'd been so focused on the romantic drama of her affair that she'd never considered the practical consequences of leaving me. In her mind, divorce was just another lifestyle choice, like switching from oat milk to almond milk. She was about to learn that some choices have prices. I'm going to stay at Shireen's tonight, she said finally. I need space to think. Good idea. Very conscious of you. She packed a bag in silence while I sat on the couch with Baxter, scratching behind his ears and planning my next move. When she left, she slammed the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames, the same picture frames that no longer contained any photos of us together. I pulled out my phone and texted Jared. Want to grab a drink tomorrow night? I have a story to tell you. His response came back immediately. Dude, yes, this is going to be good. Friday morning brought the first crack in Kendra's perfectly curated facade. I was having coffee and scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A post from her personal account that was so different from her usual content that I almost didn't recognize it as hers. Instead of her typical bright, aspirational imagery, she'd posted a black and white photo of herself looking pensively out a window with a caption about navigating life transitions and finding strength in uncertainty. The comments were immediate and brutal. Girl, what's wrong? You look sad. Are you okay? This isn't like you. Where are the good vibes? This is depressing. Unfollow. I come here for inspiration, not drama. I screenshotted the post and the comments, then opened a new browser tab to check her business accounts. Pure Glow had featured her in their Instagram stories just yesterday, promoting their new summer detox line with her usual enthusiasm. The contrast between that sponsored content and her current emotional state was jarring enough that even her followers were starting to notice. My phone rang while I was analyzing her engagement metrics. Evan, this is Hannah Chen from Pure Glow. I hope I'm not calling too early. Hannah was Kendra's primary contact at Pure Glow, a sharp-eyed marketing director who'd built her career on spotting trends before they became mainstream. If she was calling me directly instead of going through Kendra, it meant she'd noticed the same things I had. Not at all, Hannah. What can I do for you? I'm calling about Kendra's recent posts. There seems to be a shift in her content strategy, and frankly, it's not aligning with our brand values. Pure Glow is about empowerment and positivity, not whatever this melancholy aesthetic is supposed to be. I made my voice concerned but professional. I'm afraid Kendra and I are going through some personal difficulties right now. I'm not sure how it might be affecting her work. Personal difficulties? We're separating. I probably shouldn't go into details, but it's been quite stressful for both of us. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I see. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I have to be direct with you. Pure Glow has a reputation to protect. If Kendra's personal life is going to impact her ability to represent our brand appropriately, I understand completely. You need influencers who embody your values consistently. Exactly. And between you and me, we've been hearing some rumors about relationship drama that could become public. That's not the kind of publicity we want associated with our wellness products. Rumors. I wondered who might be spreading those. Of course, I said. I'm sure Kendra would understand if you needed to reevaluate your partnership. I appreciate your professionalism, Evan. This can't be easy for you. After she hung up, I sat back and smiled. One phone call, perfectly timed, and Kendra's biggest sponsor was already having second thoughts. I hadn't lied about anything. I'd simply provided context for what Hannah was already seeing. The next call came an hour later. Evan, it's me. Kendra's voice was tight with panic. Pure Glow just canceled my contract. I'm sorry to hear that. They said my recent content wasn't on brand, and they'd heard rumors about relationship instability. Did you talk to them? Hannah called me this morning. I assumed you'd given her my number as an emergency contact. What did you tell her? The truth, that we're getting divorced and it's been stressful. Evan, her voice cracked. That was my biggest contract. I needed that money. I thought Troy was going to support your vision. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. This isn't over, she said finally. I'm not going to let you destroy everything I've worked for. I'm not destroying anything, Kendra. I'm just not protecting you from the consequences of your choices anymore. She hung up without saying goodbye. I spent the rest of the morning implementing phase 3 of my plan, social media archaeology. See, the thing about influencers is that they document everything, and the thing about documented evidence is that it never really disappears. Even when Kendra had cropped me out of her recent posts, the original photos still existed in our shared cloud storage. Even when she deleted captions that mentioned our relationship, I had screenshots from when they were first posted. I created a new Instagram account, @EvanLorneTO, professional headshot, bio that simply read, financial planner, Toronto, dog dad, and began following all of Kendra's friends, sponsors, and collaborators. Then I started posting. My first post was a photo of Baxter wearing one of Kendra's expensive workout headbands, with the caption, "When your ex moves out but leaves her $80 headband behind, Baxter's pulling off the wellness influencer look better than most humans. Nildert authentic living, ach rescue dog zof Instagram, Jiao Toronto life." It was petty, sure, but it was also strategic. I was establishing my own narrative before Kendra could control the story of our separation. The second post was more direct, a throwback photo from our wedding day, one of the few where we both looked genuinely happy, with a lengthy caption about the difference between social media relationships and real ones. 2 years ago, I married someone I thought I knew, I wrote. We built a life together, adopted a dog, shared dreams and bank accounts and inside jokes. But somewhere along the way, I became a supporting character in someone else's performance. I was cropped out of photos, edited out of stories, and eventually written out of the script entirely. Today I'm starting a new chapter, one where I'm not hiding behind someone else's highlight reel. Here's to authentic living and conscious uncoupling. To divorce. Authenticity, new beginnings, Toronto life. I used her own hashtags, her own language, turning her vocabulary of empowerment against her. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Friends I hadn't heard from in months started commenting with support and shock. Kendra's followers began finding my account and following me, hungry for the other side of the story they'd been watching unfold in real time. But the most satisfying response came from an unexpected source. "Holy shit, dude." Jared's text came with a screenshot of my post. "You're trending on Toronto Instagram. Woodcure conscious uncoupling is blowing up." I checked the hashtag and found dozens of posts from other people sharing their own divorce stories, their own experiences with partners who prioritize social media over reality. I'd accidentally started a movement. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. "Evan Lorne? This is Marcus Reed from BlogTo. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in doing an interview about your viral post." BlogTo was one of the city's biggest lifestyle websites, the kind of platform that could turn a local story into national news, the kind of platform that Kendra had been trying to get featured on for years. "I appreciate the interest," I said, "but I'm not looking to exploit my personal situation for publicity. I understand, but your post has really resonated with people. There's a conversation happening about authenticity in social media relationships, and you seem to be at the center of it." I thought about Kendra, probably panicking as she watched her carefully constructed narrative crumble in real time. I thought about Troy, who'd built his entire brand on inspirational quotes about finding your perfect match. "You know what?" I said. "Let me think about it and get back to you." I had a better idea. That evening, I met Jared at a sports bar near his apartment. He was already 3 beers in when I arrived, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Dude, you're famous," he said, sliding a fresh beer across the table. "My coworkers are sharing your posts. My sister called me asking if I knew you. This is insane." "It's just Instagram drama. It'll blow over." "Are you kidding? This is the best revenge story I've ever seen, and you're just getting started." He leaned forward conspiratorially. "So what's the next move?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd been collecting, screenshots of Troy's Instagram posts, location data from Kendra's check-ins, timestamps that told the story of their affair better than any private investigator could. "Remember how you said you could get closer shots if I wanted them?" "Yeah. I want them. But not just photos. I want everything. Their conversations, their plans, their whole relationship documented." Jared's grin widened. "You want me to spy on them? I want you to help me tell the complete story, the authentic version." "When?" "Tomorrow night. Kendra just posted about a girls' night at Lush, but I'm betting Troy will be there too. They think they're being discreet, but they're about to learn that secrets don't stay secret when you live your life in public." Jared raised his beer in a mock toast. "To conscious uncoupling and authentic living." "To feeding the wolf," I replied, and we clinked bottles. Neither of us knew that Shireen was sitting 3 tables away, recording our entire conversation on her phone. Saturday night arrived with the kind of humid heat that makes Toronto feel like a pressure cooker about to explode. I spent the day preparing for what I'd started thinking of as the main event, the moment when Kendra and Troy's carefully hidden relationship would become very public knowledge. Jared texted me updates throughout the evening. They're here. Corner booth, trying to look casual. She's crying. He's holding her hand under the table. They're talking about you. She keeps showing him her phone. Dude, she just ordered a $30 cocktail. Who pays $30 for a drink? That last message made me smile. Kendra was stress spending, which meant her personal account was probably running dangerously low. Her credit card payment was due tomorrow, and without access to our joint accounts, she was about to discover what financial independence actually looked like. My phone rang at 11:30 p.m. Evan, we need to talk. Kendra's voice was slurred with alcohol and emotion. Where are you? Outside Lush. Can you come pick me up? Call an Uber. My card got declined. Please, Evan, I know I messed up, but I need help. I could hear traffic in the background, the sound of late-night Toronto moving around her while she stood alone on a sidewalk, probably in heels that cost more than most people's rent. Where's Troy? He had to leave, early morning training session. Of course he did. The fitness model had an image to maintain, and being seen with a drunk, crying influencer didn't fit his brand aesthetic. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I found her sitting on the curb outside the lounge, her designer dress wrinkled and her makeup smeared. She looked like an Instagram post gone wrong, all the staging and filters stripped away to reveal the messy reality underneath. Thank you, she said as she got into my car. I know you didn't have to. You're right, I didn't. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the city lights blurring past her window as she stared out at the night. Pure Glow wasn't the only one, she said finally. What do you mean? 3 more brands dropped me today. Someone's been calling them, telling them about us, about Troy. My whole career is falling apart. I felt a flicker of something that might have been guilt, but it passed quickly. Maybe they're just protecting their investments. This is you, isn't it? This whole thing, the social media posts, the contract cancellations, the financial stuff, you're destroying my life. I pulled up to our building and put the car in park. I'm not destroying anything, Kendra. I'm just not enabling it anymore. What's that supposed to mean? It means that for 2 years, I've been subsidizing your lifestyle, paying for your equipment, your software, your professional photos, your networking dinners. I've been your silent partner, your financial backer, your safety net, and you repaid me by cheating on me and then acting like I was the problem. She turned to face me, and in the dim light of the parking garage, she almost looked like the woman I'd married. I never asked you to do those things. You didn't have to ask. That's what partners do. They support each other's dreams, but you turned our marriage into a business arrangement where I provided the funding and you provided the content, and when you found a better deal, you were ready to cut me out without a second thought. That's not fair. Neither is photoshopping your husband out of your wedding photos. She flinched at that, confirming what I'd suspected. She thought I'd never noticed. So what happens now? She asked. Now you figure out how to build your brand without my money. You learn what authentic living actually costs. She got out of the car without saying goodbye, her heels clicking against the concrete as she walked toward the elevator. I watched her go, feeling something that wasn't quite satisfaction but wasn't regret either. My phone buzzed with a text from Jared. Dude, you need to see this. The attached video was clearly shot from the security booth at Lush, grainy footage of Kendra and Troy's corner booth with audio that was surprisingly clear. I could hear their entire conversation, including the part where Troy suggested that Kendra should manage the Evans situation more strategically, and the part where she admitted that she'd been planning to leave me for months but wanted to wait until after she'd secured a few more major contracts. She's been using you as a financial safety net while she built her exit strategy, Jared texted. They're talking about moving in together once her brand recovers from the divorce drama. I saved the video to my phone and started planning Phase 4. Sunday morning brought a new development. Shireen posted a lengthy Instagram story about toxic masculinity and financial abuse that was clearly directed at me. She'd taken screenshots of my posts and added her own commentary about men who punish women for choosing happiness. The irony was almost beautiful. Kendra's best friend was publicly defending her against accusations I'd never made, creating drama where none had existed and drawing even more attention to the situation. I responded the only way that made sense, with complete transparency. My new post was a simple screenshot of our joint account statements from the past 6 months, with a detailed breakdown of how much money I'd spent supporting Kendra's career. Camera equipment, $3,200, professional photography, $2,800, software subscriptions, $1,400, website development, $1,200, The list went on for 2 pages. Since there seems to be some confusion about financial abuse, I wrote in the caption, here's the actual financial breakdown of our relationship. I'm not punishing anyone for choosing happiness. I'm simply choosing not to fund someone else's exit strategy. Transparency, Shak's authenticity, Shak's conscious uncoupling, Chatsing, financial independence. The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in from other people sharing their own stories of supporting partners who'd taken their generosity for granted. Financial advisors started following my account and sharing my posts as examples of healthy financial boundaries. A divorce lawyer in Vancouver messaged me asking if she could use my story in her blog about protecting assets during separation. But the most interesting response came from an unexpected source. Evan, this is Hannah from Pure Glow. I saw your recent posts, and I have to say, your approach to this situation is exactly the kind of authentic leadership our brand values. Would you be interested in discussing a potential partnership? They wanted to sponsor me. The wellness company that had dropped Kendra for relationship drama wanted to hire her ex-husband to promote their products. I stared at the message for a long time, thinking about the cosmic justice of it all. Then I typed back, I'd be very interested in hearing more. My phone rang immediately. Evan, it's Kendra. What the hell is wrong with you? Good morning to you too. You posted our financial information online, our private bank statements. I posted my financial information. The money I spent supporting your business? That's private. That's between us. Nothing's private when you live your life on social media, Kendra. You taught me that. Take it down, right now. No. Evan, I'm serious. This is harassment. This is transparency. If you don't like people seeing how much I invested in your career, maybe you shouldn't have cheated on me. She was quiet for a moment, and I could hear her breathing heavily through the phone. I'm going to sue you, she said finally. For what? Posting factual information about my own financial decisions? Good luck with that. For defamation, for harassment, for financial abuse? You should probably talk to a lawyer before you throw around legal terms you don't understand. Oh wait, lawyers cost money, don't they? She hung up on me for the second time in 3 days. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a notification that made me smile. Kendra had blocked me on Instagram. It was a meaningless gesture. I could still see everything through my backup account, but it felt like a victory anyway. The war was just beginning, and I was already winning, but I had underestimated Shireen's ambition and overestimated her loyalty to Kendra. What I didn't know was that she'd been documenting our entire conflict, building her own content strategy around the drama, and preparing to launch her own influencer career on the ashes of her best friend's relationship. The real betrayal was yet to come. Monday morning brought the kind of clarity that only comes after a sleepless night spent planning someone's complete social destruction. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., scrolling through Kendra's posts from the past 2 years, cataloging every lie, every manipulation, every moment when she'd chosen her image over our reality. The final phase of my plan required perfect timing and one crucial piece of evidence that Jared had promised to deliver. Dude, you're not going to believe this, he texted at 7 a.m., along with a video file that made me freeze. The footage was from Saturday night, shot through the window of Lush from the street outside. It showed Kendra and Troy in their corner booth, but this time the audio was crystal clear. Apparently Jared had gotten close enough to record through the glass. The thing about Evan, Kendra was saying, gesturing with her cocktail, is that he never understood that relationships are about more than just paying bills and walking the dog. Troy gets it. He understands that love is about growth and inspiration and building something beautiful together. Troy nodded sagely, like she'd just delivered profound wisdom instead of Instagram caption nonsense. Plus, Kendra continued, once this divorce drama fades down, we'll have the perfect story for content. Overcoming obstacles, finding true love, conscious transformation. Our followers will eat it up. And the financial stuff? Troy asked. Evan's just being petty because his ego is bruised. He'll get over it once he realizes that fighting me publicly just makes him look bitter. Men always think they're so logical, but they're the most emotional creatures on earth when their pride gets hurt. She laughed, and Troy laughed with her, and I watched my wife mock my pain while planning to monetize our divorce for social media content. That's when I stopped feeling guilty about what I was about to do. I spent Monday morning making phone calls. First to BlogTO, accepting their interview request, then to a podcast called Toronto After Dark that specialized in local drama and social media scandals, then to 3 different lifestyle bloggers who'd been following my story and asking for exclusive details. By noon, I had 5 different media appearances scheduled for the week, each one promising to tell the complete story of Toronto's most talked about conscious uncoupling. But first, I had one more call to make. Pure Glow, this is Hannah. Hannah, it's Evan Lorne. I've been thinking about your offer, and I'm interested in moving forward. Wonderful. I have to say, your approach to this whole situation has been incredibly impressive. You've managed to maintain your dignity while still being transparent about your experience. I believe in authentic communication. Exactly. That's exactly the kind of messaging we want to associate with our brand. Now, I should mention that we're planning to make this partnership announcement fairly high profile. We want to show our followers that Pure Glow supports people who embody our values of honesty and personal growth. That sounds perfect. What I didn't tell Hannah was that I'd already written the press release in my head, complete with quotes about moving forward with integrity and building authentic partnerships with people who share our commitment to transparency. Kendra was going to wake up tomorrow morning to find that her ex-husband had been hired by the same company that had dropped her for relationship drama. The interview with BlogTO was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon at a coffee shop in Liberty Village, coincidentally the same neighborhood where Troy lived. I arrived early and spent 20 minutes reviewing my notes, making sure I had all the dates and details memorized. Sarah Martinez, the reporter, was younger than I'd expected, with the kind of sharp intelligence that made me glad I was telling the truth. So, she said, setting up her recording app, let's start at the beginning. When did you first realize your marriage was in trouble? I told her everything, the photoshopped wedding photos, the mysterious expenses, the overheard phone calls, the security footage from Lush. I showed her the screenshots, the bank statements, the timeline of lies that stretched back months before I'd even suspected anything was wrong. What I find most interesting, I said, is how social media enabled the deception. Kendra could create this perfect relationship narrative online while living a completely different reality. Her followers thought we were this happy couple building a life together, but I was just a prop that she edited out when it suited her story. And you never confronted her directly about the affair? I tried to be strategic about it. I wanted to understand the full scope of what was happening before I acted. Turns out she'd been planning to leave me for months, but she wanted to wait until she'd secured more brand partnerships. I was essentially funding my own replacement. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. She admitted that? I played her the audio from Saturday night, watching her expression change as she heard Kendra's casual dismissal of our marriage and her plans to monetize our divorce. Jesus, Sarah said when the recording ended. She really said she was going to turn your breakup into content? Conscious uncoupling sells almost as well as conscious coupling, apparently. The interview ran for 2 hours, covering everything from the financial manipulation to the social media gaslighting to the broader implications of influencer culture on real relationships. By the time we finished, I knew Sarah had enough material for a feature story that would define the narrative permanently. One last question, she said as we packed up. Do you regret any of this? The public posts, the financial moves, the media interviews? I thought about Kendra, probably spending her afternoon frantically trying to rebuild her brand while Troy posted inspirational quotes about weathering storms together. I thought about all the money I'd spent supporting her dreams, all the photos I'd been cropped out of, all the times she'd chosen her image over our reality. I regret trusting someone who saw our marriage as a business arrangement, I said, but I don't regret refusing to subsidize my own betrayal. The BlogTO article went live Wednesday morning with the headline, The Real Cost of Influence, How Toronto's Viral Divorce Exposes the Dark Side of Social Media Relationships. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times across every platform. Our conscious uncoupling was trending again, but this time the conversation had shifted from divorce drama to broader questions about authenticity, financial manipulation, and the ethics of monetizing personal relationships. My phone started ringing at 8 a.m. and didn't stop until I turned it off at midnight. But the most satisfying call came from Hannah at Pure Glow. Evan, I just wanted to let you know that our announcement is going live tomorrow morning. We're positioning this as Pure Glow's commitment to supporting authentic voices in the wellness community. I appreciate the opportunity, Hannah. And between you and me, your ex-wife's team reached out yesterday asking if we'd reconsider her contract. We declined, obviously. After she hung up, I sat in my empty apartment with Baxter curled up beside me on the couch, scrolling through the comments on my latest post. Hundreds of people sharing their own stories of financial manipulation and social media deception. Divorce lawyers offering free consultations, other men thanking me for showing them that they didn't have to quietly accept being edited out of their own lives. I'd started this wanting simple revenge against a cheating wife. Instead, I'd accidentally become the poster child for authentic living and financial boundaries. My phone buzzed with one final text of the night, from a number I didn't recognize. This is Shireen. We need to talk. I have information about Kendra that you're going to want to hear. I stared at the message for a long time, wondering what Kendra's best friend could possibly want to tell me that I didn't already know. Then I remembered something Jared had mentioned, how Shireen had been at the bar that night when we'd planned our surveillance operation, how she'd been posting her own commentary about the drama, how she'd been defending Kendra online while simultaneously feeding the story to keep it in the public eye. Shireen wasn't trying to help me destroy Kendra. She was trying to destroy Kendra herself, and she wanted to use me to do it. The wolf, it turned out, had been hiding in plain sight all along. Thursday morning brought an unexpected visitor to my office. Shireen Kumar stood in the reception area wearing designer jeans and the kind of nervous energy that suggested she hadn't slept much lately. She looked smaller in person than she did in her Instagram photos, more fragile somehow, like a house of cards waiting for the wrong breeze. "Thank you for seeing me," she said as I led her into my office. "I know this is weird." That's one word for it. She sat down across from my desk and immediately started fidgeting with her phone, turning it over and over in her hands like a worry stone. "I need to tell you something about Kendra," she said. "Something you don't know." "I'm listening." "She's been planning this for over a year." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "Planning what?" "The divorce. The affair. The whole exit strategy." Shireen's voice was barely above a whisper. "She met Troy at a fitness expo last March, and they've been talking ever since. Not just talking, planning. They have this whole timeline mapped out for how to transition from her being married to you to being with him, with minimal damage to their brands. How do you know this? Because I helped her plan it." The admission hung in the air between us like smoke. Shireen was still fidgeting with her phone, but now I could see that her hands were shaking. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she's about to throw me under the bus, and I want to get ahead of it." She pulled up a series of screenshots on her phone, text messages between her and Kendra dating back 14 months. The conversations were detailed strategic discussions about timing, public relations, and damage control. They'd planned everything. When to start pulling back from couple content, how to gradually edit me out of photos, which brands to approach about solo partnerships. "Look at this one," Shireen said, showing me a message from last October. "She's literally asking me to help her figure out how to make you look like the problem when she leaves." The text read, "Need to start building narrative that E is holding me back from my full potential. Too controlling about money, doesn't understand my vision, etc. Lay groundwork for why conscious uncoupling is best for both of us." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "You've been documenting this the whole time." "I've been documenting everything. Every conversation, every plan, every lie she's told you and everyone else. Why?" Shireen finally stopped fidgeting and looked me directly in the eyes. "Because I'm tired of being her supporting character. Do you know what it's like being best friends with someone who treats you like an unpaid assistant? She's had me managing her calendar, responding to her DMs, editing her captions, researching brands for partnerships, all for free, because that's what friends do. So this is about money. This is about recognition. I've been building her brand for 3 years, and she gets all the credit. She gets the followers, the sponsorships, the opportunities. I get tagged in her stories as my amazing support system, like I'm some kind of charity case she's helping out." I was starting to understand. "You want to be an influencer yourself. I want what I've earned, and Kendra's downfall is my opportunity." She showed me another set of screenshots, these ones from her own phone, showing how she'd been systematically leaking information to bloggers and gossip accounts throughout our entire divorce drama. She'd been the anonymous source feeding details to the media, the mysterious insider who always seemed to know exactly what was happening behind the scenes. "You've been playing both sides," I said. "I've been playing the long game. Kendra's brand was built on authenticity and relationship goals. When that falls apart, there's a vacuum in the market. I'm positioned to fill it." "With what story?" "The best friend who tried to save the marriage. The loyal confidant who finally had to speak out about toxic behavior. The authentic voice who chose truth over loyalty." It was diabolical in its simplicity. Shireen had helped orchestrate Kendra's affair, documented every step of the deception, and then positioned herself as the moral authority who would eventually expose it all. She'd been building her own brand on the ashes of her best friend's relationship before the relationship had even ended. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I want to give you everything. Every text message, every planning session, every lie she's told about you to other people. I want to help you finish this." "In exchange for what?" "An interview. You go on record saying that I tried to warn you about Kendra's behavior, that I was the one person in her circle who actually cared about your marriage. I become the whistleblower, the friend who chose integrity over loyalty. I stared at her for a long moment, processing the magnitude of what she was offering. Complete documentation of Kendra's deception, going back over a year, proof that the affair had been planned, that our entire marriage had been a performance she was ready to end the moment it stopped serving her purposes. She's going to destroy you anyway, Shireen added. She's already planning to blame you for her career falling apart. She's going to say you're financially abusive, that you're using your connections to blacklist her from brands. She's got Troy convinced that you're some kind of controlling monster who can't handle her success. And you're going to help her do that? I was, until yesterday. What happened yesterday? Shireen's expression darkened. She fired me, said she needed to streamline her team, and couldn't afford to pay for social media management anymore. 3 years of friendship, and she cuts me loose over email like I'm some random contractor. So, this is revenge. This is justice. She used you, she used me, and she's going to keep using people until someone stops her. I thought about Kendra, probably spending her morning trying to salvage what was left of her brand partnerships, while Troy posted motivational quotes about rising above negativity. I thought about all the planning that had gone into my betrayal, all the conversations where my marriage had been discussed like a business problem to be solved. Show me everything, I said. For the next 2 hours, Shireen walked me through a comprehensive archive of Kendra's deception. Text messages about managing Evan's expectations while she built her exit strategy, voice memos where she practiced different ways to announce our separation, screenshots of her conversations with Troy about timing their relationship reveal for maximum positive publicity. The most damning evidence was a voice recording from last December, Kendra talking to Shireen about her 5-year plan, which included leaving me once she hit 100K followers, moving in with Troy, and launching a couples brand around conscious relationship building. She never loved you, Shireen said as the recording ended. You were always just a stepping stone to something better. I saved everything to my phone and my laptop, creating multiple backups of evidence that would end Kendra's career permanently. What happens now? Shireen asked. Now you go home and wait for my call. When I'm ready to release this, I'll let you know. You'll get your interview and your redemption story. And Kendra? I looked out my office window at the Toronto skyline, thinking about my wife, who wasn't really my wife, who'd been planning to leave me since before she'd even met her replacement. Kendra gets exactly what she deserves. After Shireen left, I sat alone in my office for a long time, scrolling through the evidence she'd given me. Every text message was another nail in the coffin of my marriage, another proof that everything I'd believed about my life had been a carefully constructed lie. But instead of feeling angry or hurt, I felt something else entirely. Relief. For months, I'd been questioning myself, wondering if I'd missed signs, if I'd been a bad husband, if I'd somehow driven Kendra away. Now I knew the truth. There was nothing I could have done differently because I was never really a partner in our relationship. I was just a resource to be managed until something better came along. I pulled out my phone and started typing a new Instagram post. Sometimes the most important thing you can learn about someone is how they plan to leave you. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing the complete story of my marriage, not just the affair, but the year-long deception that preceded it. Stay tuned for a masterclass in authentic living. Transparency, conscious uncoupling, no, the truth will set you free. Then I called Blog to You and asked Sarah if she wanted an exclusive on the biggest influencer scandal Toronto had ever seen. How big are we talking? She asked. Big enough to end careers and start new ones. I'm listening. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I have a story that's going to change everything. After I hung up, I looked at the photo on my desk, the one picture of Kendra and me that I'd never posted online, never shared with anyone. We were at a friend's cottage last summer, both of us laughing at something Baxter had done, both of us looking genuinely happy. It was probably the only authentic moment we'd ever shared, and even that had been a lie. I put the photo in my desk drawer and started planning Kendra's final performance. The Blog TO exclusive went live on Friday morning with a headline that broke the internet. The Influencer's Playbook, How Toronto's Most Viral Divorce Exposed a Year-Long Deception. Sarah had done her homework. The article included screenshots of Kendra's planning messages, audio clips of her discussing her exit strategy, and a detailed timeline showing how every aspect of our relationship's end had been carefully orchestrated. The piece painted a picture of calculated manipulation that went far beyond simple infidelity. By noon, Shakur Kendra Pike was trending on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But this time, the conversation wasn't about conscious uncoupling or authentic living. It was about fraud, manipulation, and the dark side of influencer culture. The responses came fast and brutal. Pure Glow released a statement distancing themselves from individuals who misrepresent their personal circumstances for professional gain. 3 other wellness brands that had been considering partnerships with Kendra publicly announced they would not be moving forward. Troy's modeling agency suspended his contracts pending an investigation into his role in what they called a coordinated deception campaign. But the most satisfying response came from an unexpected source, Kendra's own followers. The comments on her latest posts were a masterclass in public shaming. People who had supported her through our divorce were now expressing outrage at being manipulated. Followers who had bought products based on her recommendations felt betrayed by the revelation that her entire relationship had been a performance. "You made us complicit in your lies," one comment read. "We defended you against your husband because we believed your story. Now we find out we were just props in your fake authenticity show." My phone rang at 2 p.m. "Evan, please." Kendra's voice was barely recognizable, cracked and desperate. "You have to make this stop." "I can't make anything stop. I just told the truth." "The truth? You destroyed my entire life over a relationship that wasn't working anyway." "I destroyed nothing. You built your life on lies, and lies don't have strong foundations." "I'm getting serious threats. People are calling my parents, my sponsors, my friends. This has gone too far." I felt a flicker of something that might have been sympathy, but it passed quickly. "You planned this for over a year, Kendra. You documented every step of how you were going to betray me and monetize our divorce. What did you think would happen when people found out?" "I thought you'd be mature about it. I thought you'd handle this privately instead of turning it into some kind of public revenge fantasy." "You thought I'd quietly disappear from your narrative like I disappeared from your photos, but here's the thing about authentic living. Sometimes the truth is ugly." She was crying now, the kind of desperate sobs that probably would have moved me 6 months ago. "What do you want? Money? An apology? I'll do anything to make this stop." "I want you to understand something," I said. "For 2 years, you treated our marriage like a business arrangement where I provided funding and you provided content. You edited me out of your story whenever it suited your brand. You planned to leave me like I was a quarterly expense you could cut to improve your margins. I'm not finished. You turned our relationship into a performance, so I'm giving you the finale you deserve. The authentic version, where actions have consequences and lies get exposed. Please, Evan, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you, but this punishment doesn't fit the crime." "This isn't punishment, Kendra. This is just what happens when you live your life in public and the public finds out who you really are." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. An hour later, Shireen called. "Did you see her latest post?" she asked. I checked Instagram. Kendra had posted a lengthy statement about taking responsibility for my mistakes and learning from this experience. It was the kind of corporate non-apology that admitted fault without accepting responsibility, expressed regret without showing remorse. The comments were even more brutal than before. "Too little, too late. This is damage control, not accountability. You're only sorry you got caught." "She's finished," Shireen said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. "No brand will touch her after this. Her follower count is dropping by the thousands every hour." "What about you?" "I'm launching my new account next week. Authentic Friendships and Real Talk is my tagline. I've already got 3 interview requests and a podcast deal." "Congratulations. Thank you for making this possible." After she hung up, I sat in my apartment with Baxter, scrolling through the wreckage of my former life. Kendra's Instagram account was a ghost town, her stories empty, her posts disabled for comments. Troy had gone completely silent on social media, his last post a generic quote about weathering life's storms. My own account, meanwhile, had exploded. 150K followers and growing, with brands reaching out daily about partnership opportunities. Pure Glow had fast-tracked our collaboration, and I was scheduled to shoot my first campaign next week. I'd become the influencer Kendra had always wanted to be, built on the ashes of the life she'd tried to steal from me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Troy. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. I was done talking to people who had treated my marriage like a business opportunity. Instead, I opened Instagram and started typing a new post. 6 months ago, I thought I knew what my life looked like. I had a wife, a home, a future mapped out in shared calendar appointments and joint financial goals. Today, I know that life was a performance, and I was just a supporting character in someone else's story. But here's what I've learned about authentic living. Sometimes you have to burn down the stage to find out who you really are. Sometimes you have to feed the wolf that's been starving while you fed everyone else. I'm not the same man who got married 2 years ago, or even the same man who got divorced 6 months ago. I'm someone who refuses to be edited out of his own life. I'm someone who understands that the most expensive thing you can pay for someone else's dreams is your own dignity. And to everyone who's been following this story, thank you for teaching me that authenticity isn't about perfect lighting or carefully curated content. It's about refusing to let other people write your narrative. And to everyone who's ever been cropped out of someone else's picture, your story matters too. Tell it loudly, tell it honestly, and don't let anyone convince you that their version of your life is more important than your own. The wolf is fed, the performance is over. The real story starts now. Shucked authenticity, new beginnings, feed the wolf. The end. I posted it and put my phone away, not caring about the likes or comments or shares that would follow. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing for an audience or managing someone else's image or trying to fit into a story that was never really mine. I was just being myself, and that was enough. Baxter looked up at me from his spot on the couch, tail wagging, completely unaware that his humans had just destroyed each other on the internet. I scratched behind his ears and smiled. "Come on, boy," I said. "Let's go for a walk. A real one, not one for the camera." We left the apartment together, stepping out into the Toronto evening without any agenda other than enjoying the night air and each other's company. No photos, no posts, no documentation required, just authentic living, finally.